All praises, glory, and honor is due to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahushai, Hashem Kadash. I'm going to give double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and salutation to the awful elect that is pushing this word in the four corners, the highways and byways. Once again, all praises, glory, and honor is due to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahushai, Hashem Kadash. Brother Zakaria here with another lesson. All right, and this lesson gonna be again to hell with these Christian pastors, all right, or to hell with Christianity, right? Because these Christian pastors is wrong and have been wrong for centuries, all right. I've been wrong for centuries, right? Leading our people astray with this Greek mythology, mixed with Egyptology, mixed with just fairy tales, right? Now here it is. And it's just so clear because, the scripture talk about men teaching for money and for profit, all right? Now, if you don't see those as the so-called Christian pastors, something definitely wrong with you, because it's very clear to see, when you go in all the churches, all these churches, the pastors always have the prettiest house, right? The best cars. All the kids have the best cars, right? And a lot of the times too, the pastors even have the best women, right? And that's what people say, each Christian pastors ain't nothing but ex-pimps, right? But we don't have to go into all of that. We can just stay on the point about these men being teachers for hire, right? And nothing more. Right? Let me just play this video, and then we can get right into it.
Disgusting. Y'all check this out.
I, Roberta McCoy, given faith and stand in unity with the vision of Perfecting Church of sowing this seed of $1,000 plus $235 and receiving the blessings to come to all that participated.
Now that's only $1,200.
Yes.
Y'all not listening to what I'm saying. If you have 1,000 plus 1,000.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna work on the other 800.
Well, that ain't what I asked you to do.
Why are the other members laughing at that? This is ridiculous. But if you don't know what's going on here, this pastor got online a while ago and he made a video talking about he wanted his members to give $1,000 plus go out and find another $1,000 somewhere else, like ask a co-worker, friends, family, whatever. Just come back to him with $2,000. And this was my reaction to that video.
I'm asking everyone to give a particular amount. And that amount is $1,000. But then we want you to get under the burden and ask your coworkers, businesses in your community, people that you do work with, your family, your friends. Tell them to give, and we want you to come with your $1,000 plus another $1,000.
You smoke crack, don't you? You smoke crack, don't you?
But the fact,
right? So that was basically the point. And yeah, like the clip there with was a Morgan Freeman. You smoke crack, don't you? Because this fella clearly, on something, because in this hard economy, he asking individuals to provide $1,000 US. Now, it doesn't matter, which part of the world, right? That is a lot of money, There is some people rent for a month, all right? And this is a church full of jakes, right? You see the woman right there, she's clearly a jake, He, as a so-called leader, the pastor, you should be aware that Jake is still under oppression and could barely make it, day to day. But what? These niggas don't care, Cause this is a fucking nigga, an absolute nigga, right? Cause why the hell would you ask, a member of the congregation to donate $1,000, and then go under the burden to find another $1,000. So basically $2,000 and up. And right here, the way he addressed her was very embarrassing. All right, absolutely embarrassing, right? So check this out, because tithing, right? This is not the way tithing should be done, You go into the law of Deuteronomy chapter 14, it tells you the way you should tithe, right? This nigga basically asking for money for his own benefit, all right? This fella is an absolute monster. And a lot of Christian churches, or most, is like this. Because I personally went into churches where the pastor demanded that people sow a seed of a certain amount or more, right? Right, now, let me see what the scriptures say about that. Right, so this is Matthew 17 and verse 19. It says, Then came the disciples to Yahushua apart and said, Why could we not cast him out? Right? Verse 20, it says, And Yahushua said unto them, Because of your unbelief, for verily I say unto you, if ye have faith as a grain of mustard seed, ye shall say unto this mountain, Remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. Right? The reason I read this precept is to show you that the Most High doesn't demand much from you. All right? That's what it says. If ye have faith as a grain of mustard seed, one individual mustard seed, which is a very small, grain, right? You don't need a lot to go to the Most High. You just gotta put forth your best effort. Okay? And that's what the scripture meant when it said, come as you are, right? Funny enough, Christians like to quote the scripture, but I have no idea what it actually means, right? Because, hey, if they did, they wouldn't be doing stupid shit like this, right? And another thing too, you Christians, the masses of Christians, you don't read the scriptures, right? And that's why you're being taken advantage of, all right? Because this guy is taking advantage of his congregation, right? And like I said, this is common in almost every Christian church, right? I mean, I personally do not know one whereby this is not happening, right? Now, let's get a law of tithing, right? just to not get it confused. It's Deuteronomy. This is Deuteronomy 14. Let me see. Yeah. All right, let's get it right. It's Deuteronomy 14 verse 22. Thou shalt truly tie all the increase of thy seed, that the field bring it forth year by year, and thou shalt eat before Yahweh thy power in the place which he shall choose to place his name. Right? So basically, of all your increase year by year, right, you will go to the Most High with a with an offering, right? But also too, then there's the tithe, right? Which is basically what you will do with a certain percentage of your increase, right? As we read down, it's gonna break it down, right? It says, and thou shalt eat before Yahweh thy power in the place which he shall choose to set his name there, the tithe of thy corn, the tithe of thy wine, and of thine oil, and the firstling of thine herds and thy flocks, that thou mayest learn to fear Yahweh thy power always. And if the way be too long for thee, so that thou art not able to carry it, right? And the place that the Most High said his name was Jerusalem, right? However, now in this current time, all right, Jerusalem will be the prophets, all right? But hey, if you can't make it to the prophets, all right, guess what? The Most High made a provision for them. And it says, what it says, if thou art not able to carry it, or if the place be too far for thee, which Yahweh thy power shall choose to set his name there, and Yahweh thy power hath blessed thee, then shalt thou turn it into money, right? And yes, they did had money back then. They had real money back then, silver and gold coins, right? And shall put it in, and shall go unto the place which Yahweh thy power shall choose, and thou shalt bestow the money for whatsoever thy soul lusted after, for oxen, or for sheep, or for wine, or for strong drink, right? So a part of your tithe, you're actually supposed to, eat of it. I'm pretty sure no Christian have ever heard this before, all right? Not in the Christian church, and not broken down the correct way, right? The only thing the Christian church tells you is that you bring 10% of your earnings and you give it to the church. And basically, whatever the pastor, the deacons, the leaders or elders of the church decide to do with that money, they do with it, right? Which is not supposed to be so, right? That money is actually supposed to be poured back into the congregation. It's not supposed to be going to the pastor taking a salary out of it, the deacon taking a salary out of it. Hey, it's not even supposed to be going into a building, because you don't need a building to praise the Most High, right? Anyhow, reading on, it says, Then shalt thou turn it into money, and bind up the money in thine hand, and shall go unto the place which Yahweh shall choose, and thou shalt bestow that money for whatsoever thy soul lusted after. Right? And thou shalt eat there before Yahweh thy power, and thou shalt rejoice, and thou and thine household. Right? So it's not just you, but your entire household is supposed to eat of the tithe. Right? And the Levite within thy gates, thou shalt not forsake him, for he had no part nor inheritance with thee. Right? So a part of the money you're supposed to give to the Levites. Right? You know, not your Christian pastor. Because the Levite had no inheritance. Right? Their only job was to communicate with the Most High for the rest of Israel. Alright? They didn't really had, like a full land, a full plot of land allotted to them, and cattle and all these things like the other tribes. They just lived among the other tribes, and basically the other tribes would take care of them. Right? So that's what it meant when I say don't forsake the Levites. Now, if these Christian pastors think that they're performing the duty of a Levite, they're absolutely fucking wrong. Right? They're not even close. Right? Yeah, but I had some other scripture I wanted to hit. This is Micah 3 verse 11. It says, the heads thereof judge for reward, and the priests thereof teach for ire, and the prophets thereof divine for money. Yet they will lean on Yahweh and say, it is not Yahweh among us. Right, so these Christian pastors, they teach for money. Alright? All your prophet and your prophetess, so-called in the Christian churches, they're actually in the business of making money. And I know this for a son, because my sister, she deep into the Christian church, right? Or at least she was at one point. And when they would send her on missions, right, as they call it, to other countries, she will actually make a good set of money, right? And she will always look forward to those type of opportunities because of the benefit of the money, right? And we don't have to look too far to see this. We see this with we see this every day. Alright? With every Christian church in your neighborhood, No. This is Isaiah 56 and verse 11. It says, yea, they are greedy dogs which can never have enough, and they are shepherds that cannot understand. They all look their own way, and everyone for his gain from his quarter. Yeah. Because you asking for something, an individual, for 2,000 American dollars, right? In this universally hard economy is ridiculous. You're nothing but a greedy dog, right? You know, why the fuck you need all the money? You know? And they look like a decent size congregation. A decent sized congregation. They, you know, you probably could make, you know, millions off of the congregation with something like that. Right? Or at least hundreds of thousands. You know, because if you have 100 persons donate that $2,000, then there's already 200,000. Think about it, right? But to show you that, you know, this nigga is indeed a greedy dog. You know, this woman, she clearly struggling to come up with the $2,000, right? And this motherfucker acting like our $1,240 something dollars or whatever it was is not enough. It's not valid. Come on, bro. You know, this woman probably is a single mother, as is a lot of, you know, Jake women nowadays, especially ones in the Christian churches, right? Think about the expenses that this woman probably have, you know? And when you're giving an offering, you're not supposed to give a direct amount. The Most High don't deal with the direct amounts, right? You know, not in those instances, you know. But you asking for this direct amount, like you can't get a blessing, like the congregation wouldn't be blessed if they didn't give this direct amount. That's crazy. Right, so hopefully this lesson was edifying through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Salutation to the hopefully elect. I say Kwame Asharala and Abad Babal. Shalom.